Smart gardening is an easy way to get a really great garden while using fewer natural resources. When you practice the techniques of smart gardening, you will conserve water and energy, save time and money, improve your garden, recycle yard waste and kitchen scraps, reduce waste going into our landfills, and help preserve the environment. The County of Los Angeles Department of Public Works established the Smart Gardening Program as an innovative and informative program to keep our environment flourishing for many years to come. Today, the Smart Gardening Program has evolved into an exceptional and easily executed series of popular and proven techniques with benefits that are achieved when we make a concerted effort to think smart and get with the program. Water, the source of life for every living thing on Earth, which is why, in an effort to conserve our planet's most precious resource, a new concept in yard and garden care was integrated into the Countywide Smart Gardening Program. It's called Water-Wise Gardening, and its innovative landscaping techniques could be the key to saving more than half the water you normally use, while at the same time keeping your yard and garden watertight.
Because we are surrounded by abundance of lawns, trees, shrubs, and flowers, we tend to forget that most of the land we live on is semi-desert. And of the more than 500 gallons of water a typical family uses in a day, over 30% is used to water their yards and gardens. That's over 150 gallons of water a day, every day, 7 days a week. And if that sounds like a lot of water, multiply that number by the millions of other families throughout LA County with yards and gardens, and you'll get some idea of the vast amounts of water we spend to beautify our homes and properties. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Sue Nelson, and this is a water conservation garden in Santa Clarita, California. It's thriving, living evidence that we can maintain and enjoy green and healthy yards and gardens while saving more than half our normal water usage. That's right, more than half. And here to share the secret with us on how to keep our yards and gardens flourishing with less water is Tim Wheeler, horticulturist with the Castaic Lake Water Agency. Thanks for joining us, Tim.
It's a pleasure, Sue. But the techniques for water-wise gardening aren't really a secret. Farmers, landscape professionals, and gardeners have been using them for decades.
Well, they're professionals. Is it really important that average families use these techniques as well?
Oh, of course. As you know, we have to import much of our water supply.
That's true. Millions of gallons are drawn from the Colorado River, and millions more come from northern and central California via the California Aqueduct.
And don't forget the groundwater wells and the regional aquifers that supply them.
Naturally, bringing all that water in from someplace else costs a lot of money.
It's expensive, and sometimes supplies run low.
Wait a second. Even though we live in a semi-desert, we get some pretty heavy periods of rainfall here.
That's true, but those periods of heavy rain are often followed by years of drought. It's critical we do everything we can do to conserve water.
Okay, well, it's good to know that we can save water without sacrificing the beauty of our yards and gardens. Where do we begin?
Well, with the assistance of a few friends, let's begin at the beginning. There are several steps in creating a water-wise garden. The first of which is to determine the names of the plants you have.
Okay, well, why is it important to identify them?
Well, different plants have different water requirements. By identifying them by name, you can tailor the water to the individual plants.
Ah, which will keep us from watering more than is necessary.
Exactly, you're catching on.
Well, thanks, but the water-wise techniques are designed to be easily understood and implemented. So what's next?
Come with me and I'll show you.
This looks like a little housing development for plants.
Well, in a way it is. It's called hydrozoning, and it's a gardening technique that dates back thousands of years.
And it still works today?
Absolutely. Basically, it's grouping plants according to their needs.
Like how much water they use.
Yes, among other factors. But what it comes down to is grouping high water use plants with other high water use plants, moderate water use plants with other moderate water use plants,
and grouping low water use plants with other low water use plants. I think I get it.
I'm sure you do. But do you know how each of these groupings should be placed in order to get the right amount of water they need?
Not exactly.
Step number 3. Here's a hint. Gravity.
Gravity?
All of your high water use plants should be planted at the highest point of your yard or garden. Any idea why?
Would it be because those are the plants that need the most water?
It would. That's where gravity comes in.
Of course. Water flows downhill, so if you water the high-use plants higher up,
Naturally, the excess water is going to flow down to the plants below, and they'll use the water the plants above them don't need.
now that's what I call smart.
And simple. So simple, anyone can do it.
Tim, what would you say to people who think a water-wise garden is strictly limited to just growing cacti?
I tell them to look around and see just how wrong they are. One of the most effective ways to save water is to dress your yard or garden with native or drought-tolerant plants that don't require a lot of water to survive.
Well, and from the looks of things here, there are plenty of native and drought-tolerant plants to choose from to give your yard and garden a variety of beautiful vegetation.
Woolly blue curls, California grape, seaside daisy, blue-eyed grass, and cottonwood are just a few examples of these plants that bring a natural and beautiful look to any yard or garden.
And because they're native to Southern California, they're inexpensive. Okay, it's pretty obvious you can have a beautiful lawn and garden and still conserve water. But one of the things a lot of homeowners take the most pride in is having a lush lawn.
That's true, but if they're serious about saving water, there are alternatives to turf grass.
Wow, think there's enough green here?
Like I said, there's a lot of alternatives to grass. Most nurseries carry ground covers that homeowners can use as an alternative for their thirsty lawns.
Like what?
Well, like Myoporum or Armeria or ice plant, just to name a few. There are many others that are just as green and just as good.
You know what the best part is? You don't have to mow it.
One thing though, if people insist on having a typical grassy lawn, there's something they should keep in mind. Plant only drought-tolerant species that have been developed specifically for Southern California.
And let me guess, there are plenty of grass species to choose from as well.
Pretty astute, Sue. So astute it takes us to our next step.
As you can see, there are plenty of plants that are not only lovely and decorative, but they can also survive on very little water.
Having so many plants to choose from can be problematic and could lead to unexpected complications if you're not careful.
So what do you recommend?
First, have a plan. Make sure you have a clear understanding of what plants and vegetation will best suit your yard or garden.
If you're not sure, talk to a professional, like an employee at your local nursery or a landscaper.
The point is to choose your plants carefully, putting the ones that thrive in direct sunlight in the appropriate areas and the plants that need shade in areas that are protected from the sun.
You mentioned something before about unexpected complications. What kind of complications?
Well, suppose you have a single-story home and you decide to spruce up the yard by adding a few shrubs.
And again, there are plenty to choose from.
Yes, but which of these is right for your property?
This is nice. I'd pick this one. What's wrong with this one?
It isn't a good choice for a single-story house. It can grow into a small tree, so it wouldn't be a good choice if you wanted to enjoy the view outside your window, would it?
You're right. I'd want something that wouldn't be taller than about 2 or 3 feet. No, honey, just gonna have to cut it all up.
And there are plenty of those to choose from. Just know what you want and choose accordingly.
Seems simple enough.